On today's edition of the Dallas Cowboys Fansby Chat Sports, we're diving into the growing chatter around offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer. Today, we're breaking down claims from national media voices like Colin Cowherd and Mike Florio, who suggest that Schottenheimer may be on the hot seat, or worse, a one-and-done coach. Is there any legitimacy to those takes? Are we already headed for instability in Dallas before the 2025 season even kicks off? Let's unpack what's being said, why it's being said, and how much of it really holds up under scrutiny. But before we dive too deep into the speculation, I want to flag a killer deal for Cowboys fans. This Dak Prescott shirt jersey, that t-shirt style jersey hybrid, was originally $39 on Fanatics. And now, it's just $10. $10. I'm not even a big jersey shirt guy myself, but at that price, it's an absolute steal. I already picked one up, and you probably should too. The link is down in the comments and the description of today's show. Just head to grab yours before they're gone. Now, back to the story. Colin Cowherd recently gave a series of bold predictions for each NFL division, and his take for the NFC East? That Schottenheimer will be a one-and-done offensive coordinator. According to Cowherd, Jerry Jones will know by Thanksgiving that he made a massive mistake. He even suggested that both Philadelphia and Washington would blow the Cowboys out twice this season. Let's be honest, that part doesn't really track. Dallas should have swept Washington last year, and if not for a freak play by Marcus Mariota, they probably would. Here's the thing with Cowherd national media types, often take a skeptical, even cynical view of hires, like Schottenheimer. And in fairness, when the Cowboys brought him in, there wasn't exactly a line of NFL teams trying to hire him. This wasn't a hot name in coaching circles. So the skepticism from the outside is somewhat understandable. But let's also be real, Cowherd isn't watching OTAs. He's not diving deep into film study on how the Cowboys are installing their offense. That's not his job, it's mine. It's ours, as fans who are engaged and paying close attention. So take the national talking head narrative with a grain of salt. Still, it's worth discussing. How confident are you in Brian Schottenheimer? On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you stand? Drop your number in the comments. It's pinned down below, and I want your honest take. Cowherd did make one fair point in his argument. One-and-done coaching stints happen more than we sometimes realize. There's been at least one per year since 2016. In 2024, we had two, Jared Mayo and Antonio Pierce. The year before that, Frank Reich didn't even make it through the season. Nathaniel Hackett and Lovie Smith were one and done in 2022. David Culley and Urban Meyer met the same fate in 2021. Go back further, Freddie Kitchens, Steve Wilks, Chip Kelly, and it's clear there's a pattern. So statistically, someone will probably be fired after just 1 year in 2025. Schottenheimer's name might float around on that short list, especially among people who aren't following the Cowboys closely. If you ask non-Cowboys fans to name one first-year head coach or coordinator most likely to get canned, Schotty's name might pop up. But from our perspective, that's not how things work in Dallas, and there are multiple reasons why. Before we go further, I want to hear from you again. What's the percentage chance, in your view, that the Cowboys move on from Schottenheimer after just one season? Personally, I think it's low, but I'd love to hear your predictions in the comments section. Now, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk also weighed in, ranking Schottenheimer as the fourth hottest seat in the NFL behind only Mike McDaniel, Brian DeBull, and Shane Steichen. He rounded out the top 5 with Dave Canales. Florio also made a few bold claims, including one that the Cowboys hired Schottenheimer over Kellen Moore, purely because he was cheaper. No actual evidence was offered to back that up, though. Just a claim, which seems to be a bit of a trend from Florio lately. But here's where his analysis gets more interesting. he raised questions about Schottenheimer's contract details, particularly guaranteed money or a potential buyout clause. That's a legitimate angle that rarely gets discussed in depth. Most NFL coaching contracts are either fully guaranteed or come with at least 3 to 4 years of guaranteed money. Schottenheimer's deal, as we know, is a shorter 4-year contract, which is already unusual in today's league. If there's little to no guaranteed money in his deal, it could technically make it easier to move on from him. But I find that highly unlikely. No competent agent would let a coach sign a bare-bones contract with no protection unless the coach was truly desperate. And that brings us to Jerry Jones. Jerry has said on record that he doesn't want to pay people to not work for him. That's how the Jones family operates. They hate dead money, even if it's not technically a cap issue for coaches. So while the idea of Schottenheimer being disposable might play in media circles, it just doesn't line up with the way Dallas does business. Let's look at the historical track record. The Joneses have always been patient with coaches, sometimes too patient. Jimmy Johnson got 5 years. Barry Switzer got 4. Chan Gailey got 2. Dave Campo somehow got 3, despite being objectively terrible. Bill Parcells, 4 years. Wade Phillips, 3.5. And of course, Jason Garrett was around forever, 9.5 years. Even Mike McCarthy got all 5. The point is, this front office gives coaches time. That's their model, and they don't abandon it easily. Why? Because they're not just patient, they're cheap. They've been vocal about not wanting to shell out cash for fired coaches. They see it as wasteful, and for a team that's valued in the billions, that's ironically where they draw the line. So unless the season is a complete and total disaster, and I mean 3 wins bad, Schottenheimer isn't going anywhere. And frankly, I don't think the Cowboys will be that bad. Even if Dallas falls short of expectations, you're probably looking at a 6-7 win season. That would spark debate, sure. It might even put Schotty on notice heading into year 2. But a firing? After 1 year, that would be extremely out of character. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, firing Schottenheimer after 1 season would be a public admission by the Jones family that they screwed up. And they hate admitting they're wrong. They're more likely to deflect, spin, or double down than they are to accept failure. Letting Schotty go early would be them telling the world, yeah, we botched this. And that's not how they operate. They told everyone they knew better, that they saw something no one else did. And if it fails, they own the egg on their face. This isn't like the Bears hiring Ben Johnson, where if it doesn't work, people shrug and say, hey, it was a smart bet at the time. This was a gamble from the start. If it pays off, they get to say, see? We told you. But if it doesn't, they'll twist themselves into knots before they ever admit it was a mistake. So will Brian Schottenheimer be one and done in Dallas? Despite what the national media thinks, I'm putting that probability low, very low. The Joneses want this to work. They need it to work. Because if it doesn't, it won't just be a reflection on the coach. It'll be a reflection on them. Let me know what you think. Will Schottenheimer make it beyond 2025? Type Y for yes and for no in the comments. And if you want more Cowboys content all season long, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got more videos, more coverage, and more debates than ever before right here on the Cowboys Report. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.